Hi guys, welcome back to INFJ. Today we are talking about, are you an INFJ or an INTJ? So before we get started, comment, like, and subscribe, and let's do this. So, some behind the scenes glitz and glamour is, for INFJ, I'm an INFJ, the type that has been the most frequent in my life is INFP. My favorite type is INTJ. The type that watches my videos the most is INTP. So you see, I have to juggle all of these responsibilities. Right, so here we go. INFJs. This is going to be my perception. It's not exactly what you would read on a type description. I don't know if like the MBTI community holds the same opinions on me as this. So here we go. So INFJ to me are more open with NIFE. This is because NI and FE have commiseration in common. INFJs tend to lean towards being bubbly. INFJs can be loud and outgoing when someone initiates with us. So I've known a few shy INFJs. A lot of INFJs, though, I think are bubbly and just like, I think band kid, theater kid, goofy. That's what I think of INFJs. I don't think of us so much as shy. I know shy INFJs, but so while I know a few INFJs are shy, I think INTJs tend to be more shy, more frequently than the INFJ. Although there are plenty of bubbly INTJs. INTJ, NITE, and NIFE can both be misunderstood. INTJs share their NITE more matter-of-factly. They tend to have a more factual and digestible delivery. NITE also judges if the conversation partner will be open to their ideas and does not try as hard to convince people who do not believe in their ideas. So that goes INTJs. Now, I know aloof sounds like not a compliment, but INTJs to me can seem more aloof in their NITE. Even INTJs I know who are bubbly, they are not necessarily out sharing their introverted intuition insights with everyone while they're being bubbly. INFJ NIFE rather tries harder to convince people of our vision and takes it more personally when people do not believe us. So INTJs try to convince people to believe in themselves so that they can commit to things or commit to the INFJ. The INFJ might say things like, oh, if you remove these limiting beliefs, you would be like a better artist, you would be more expressive. Or if you remove these limiting beliefs, we would be better friends, right? INFJs, we see deep things in people and we try to motivate them to improve those things naturally. INTJs try to convince people, I feel like, into removing limiting beliefs and addressing their psychology so they can work harder to achieve a goal. See, there's a difference. There's INTJ, there's like a goalpost. You address the psychology to reach a goalpost. INFJs more address the psychology so you can experience maybe the journey better. I'm not saying one's better than the other. You know, there's so many tropes like, oh, it's all about the journey. Well, no, like it's the journey and the destination, right? Then that's why we make MBTI content, to bring it all together. Anyways, so INTJs try to get people to work harder and achieve goals. INTJs may find themselves in relationships where they are the productive one or the one who holds the relationship to standards. So like, I'm going to throw out some typical like relationship standard tropes, and this is just in Western culture. So they might say things like, we go to church, we work out, we eat healthy. I'm not saying that those are my values. I'm saying that I think is how like an ISTJ, INTJ, like dating them might feel, is like holding the relationship to those standards. And those are just examples, so it could be any standards. INFJ is yes, I already talked about that. So this reveals that FE and INFJs and TE both have a feeling for a need for control. This is why like INFJs the IJs are attracted to the EPs. So like INFJ, INTJ are drawn to the ESFP, ESTP because the ESFP, ESTP theoretically don't mind as much this level of control that the INFJ, INTJ is putting on them. Now, of course, the goal is integration, the goal is balance, and you can't really know how things are going to go just based off of personality type. This is just some general things to think about this. Together, INFJ and INTJ, I said this was my favorite type. My favorite type, well, we're gossipy. So I guess I must like gossiping. And so critically, we like to gossip and be critical because we both have in common that we evaluate blocks in people. We evaluate, are people living up to their potential? There's some other similarities I'll get into later. So productivity in the INFJ, INTJ. So productivity can be a sort of a strength and a conundrum in the INFJ and the INTJ. We are good at it, and we also recognize, well, actually, I mean, everybody to an extent has to work on productivity, but we recognize there are some needs there. So INTJ tend to work faster than INFJ and are typically more accurate and more efficient. INFJs are notoriously slow learners. INTJs tend to schedule themselves to get a lot of work done, but may overschedule themselves and burn out. They stick to duty so much that they may find themselves bedridden for a day or two. Remember, the weekends are there. INTJs, they're there for you. INFJs tend to be productive based on enthusiasm. INFJ can and should pick a line of work that we are passionate about. Now, I know like motivation and enthusiasm don't lead to everything, but INFJs, we have a fair extroverted feeling. We do need to give a little bit back. Like we have enthusiasm and motivation, and we can use it. And that it goes back to the INFJ at the beginning needs to choose a path we are passionate about. We like if you told me to come on here and talk about, I don't know, cars, I would make probably like one YouTube video a year. Like it wouldn't be possible. I'm not motivated to talk about cars. But anyway, so INFJ and INTJ both need to be intentional with when we are resting and when we are being productive. So this is what I'm going to get into is like just like detail on evaluating your own chemistry to deal with these work ethic issues, not issues, but like these work ethic needs as an INFJ, INTJ. So being intentional with rest and understand how you work. So some people start with the easiest task and that gets them in the work zone and then they keep doing their productivity. I typically start with the hardest task. I work better in mornings. Understanding the chemistry of your work ethic and then anticipating your work pitfalls is crucial. For example, when I am productive, I tend to eat more healthy, like as I'm being productive. If I ate Whataburger and fast food, I would feel unproductive. Like if I eat, like if I know I have to help someone with an errand, if I eat fast food right before I help them, I'm going to feel miserable, right? Just those sorts of things. Just keep track of this stuff, and you kind of have to build this based off your own needs. Also, preparatory gestures. This is something I think as an INFJ, I do because I guess I am lacking extroverted thinking. I have to lean on introverted intuition and TI to come up with some sort of plan so I can get something done. And so I will like prepare it, or I don't know, like when I cook, I set the ingredients out. When I always, what can I do now to help me do it later? I notice INTJs don't do that. They're good at just bulldozing, which is fine. But like INTJ, when I'm on a project with an INTJ, I do the preparatory gesture for us, and it helps the INTJ. So there you go. So conformity and logic. So this is interesting. This is another place I feel in common with the INTJ. We're not the same, but this is something that's come up a lot in my friendships with INTJs. Although extroverted thinking often subscribes to common sense tropes like work hard, It's about the journey. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. So like with extroverted thinking, when it's like not developed, it's a lot of just subscription to just common sense things without fleshing them out. And since I have polar TE, I'm probably apt to be critical of extroverted thinking. But INTJ and I thoroughness often notices the pitfalls in TE procedures. This is in contrast to their TJ counterparts. ENTJs, ESTJs, and ISTJs do not acknowledge the pitfalls like INTJs do. I had an INTJ roommate. I have several INTJs in my life. They always acknowledge the pitfalls. Thank you, INTJs. ISTJs, ENTJs, ESTJs are more like get it done, right? So now INTJs also have a get it done streak. Obviously, they have auxiliary extroverted thinking, but yes. So I think this comes from INTJ having demonstrative TI and dominant introverted intuition. So contrastingly, ISTJs also sort of notice pitfalls. Like ISTJs, I know they see it. We'll talk about it for a little bit, and then they change they change the subject, or they're not fully in it. So they'll notice a pitfall, and they will kind of critique procedures, but the INTJ picks apart the procedures more than the ISTJ does. INFJ, so I always go to this example. I've had INTJ classmates in college, and we would study a lot, the INFJ or the INTJ and I, and we would like account for things like the teacher gives you a study guide. In college, the teacher gives you a syllabus, study guide, practice questions, all this stuff. And so we would read the book, and we would evaluate what's in the book, what's on the study guide, and then we would also note, like, this was in the book, this was on the study guide, this question on the test was not in the study guide, but we knew the answer because we read the book. See, we're naturally looking for those pitfalls because we wanted the A. So this is something that I see throughout like a myriad of situations with INTJs and myself. And INFJs, yes. INTJs, so the next part is questioning titles. INTJs question titles because introverted intuition is so thorough. It wants to know, so you have this title, are you delivering on everything that this title entails? So ISTJs have demonstrative TI. They will critique someone in a position of authority, sort of like not like so outright as the INFJ or INTJ do, but they will question it if it is overtly questionable. It has to be like blaringly obvious, like I don't know, if someone's a CEO of a company and let's say they did not graduate high school, right? Now that's very possible. Those things do happen, but like, and this is just an example. Like I don't want to be like ableist and say like someone who's never graduated high school can't be a CEO. But this is just kind of like I'm giving an overt example of something that would make you say, well, that would make you like stop and say, well, that person didn't graduate high school. Should they be a CEO? Right, that sort of thing. So it has to be overtly questionable, and or a significant number of people have to also be questioning it for the ISTJ to question that position. So see, the ISTJ needs other things to click before they'll openly question something. Whereas INTJ, INFJ, we're pretty scrutinizing, just naturally. Yes, so those are some things INFJs, INTJs have in common. INTJs and INFJs differences is that INTJs like grandiose narcissists because grandiose narcissists hit the numbers, and INTJs like that. Not that, okay, INTJs could be drawn to that. That's how I should have said that. But INTJs could be drawn to grandiose narcissists because they hit the numbers. INTJs view breadcrumbing narcissists, they view breadcrumbing narcissists as lazy and perhaps useless. And maybe INFJs, we need to learn that perspective a little bit. INFJs are not drawn to grandiose narcissists as much, or grandiose, like, and I'm talking about the undeveloped the raw personality type. So like when we talk about the toxic patterns or the like, you have to understand a personality type, you basically have to evaluate the weaknesses. So like that's why these videos are critiquey or judgy. It's just naturally the nature of MBTI. It's looking at the base cognitive functions, and to understand that, you're at a base level, so you're not talking to the INTJ or the INFJ who's been a therapist for 40 years, because they're going to be at a completely, they're going to look like a completely different type of INFJ than like the average INFJ. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that's just like a caveat, like, right? We're talking about like the young, immature, I know, like not morally immature, but objectively less mature INTJ, INFJ. Anyways, INFJs do not like grandiose narcissists as much because they are too much about the numbers. INFJs tend to like breadcrumbing narcissists more who have a rebellious streak. That was long-winded. And to the finale of this video, are INTJs cold? How I view INTJs is that they are intentional with who they allow in their lives. They aren't always blanketly bubbly to everyone. So in sports, there is a concept of a rah-rah coach. This refers to a coach who mainly is encouraging, but who may or may not understand the game itself. INTJs may not like people like this. Hence, they can tend to clash with ESFJs, and perhaps, but not necessarily ENFJs. Now, ESTJs and ENTJs could also be this way. A thinking function in MBTI is a mode of cognition and is not synonymous with always being logical, always being coherent, or always being competent. Thinking does not equal competence. However, that's something to think about. I do know a lot of ESTJs and ENTJs who are super smart, but INTJs, that idea of a rah-rah coach, INTJ does not like. INTJs, I think, scope people out in their own sort of way. And I feel like they can tend to like INFJs because NI is different enough to seem intriguing, that INFJ is different enough to seem intriguing to the INTJ. I know being a male INFJ, I am socialized to be more confident in like thinking functions than my female INFJ counterparts. This is just me, my like life experience. Female INFJs, I feel just socialized to be more passive naturally. I grew up with an ESTJ brother and ESTP brother who were always debating and arguing, and they both were thinkers. So I do think like I'm a little more forthcoming with maybe a few of those things within myself sometimes. But yes, more INTJ videos to come. I didn't really talk about INTJ compassion or INTJ introverted feeling in this video. So there'll probably be, I had several INTJ videos on my old channel. There are more to come. I hope y'all like this video. Thanks.